Right from Yellowstone to 1883 and 1923, there have been so many twists and turns that have come our way through the Dutton family, and the story only keeps getting more complex. One thing, however, is that it's very easy to mix up the stories and persons, especially when we consider that the stories weren't told chronologically. Have you been wondering who's who from the Dutton family? Well, here is the whole Dutton family tree explained. Stay tuned. What you need to know. Yellowstone premiered in 2018 and was our first introduction to the Dutton family. With every scene, we learned more about the family and had the story centered on John Dutton and his family. Yellowstone is currently on its 4th season, and while we expect a new season this summer, we also got 2 separate series that travel back in time in multiple spin-off series of the cowboy drama. They're set in 1883 and 1923 and are named accordingly. For the Duttons, the only thing more important than protecting the generational land they own is family. The Dutton family settled in Montana near Yellowstone National Park and found much success after opening the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. Sure, the Yellowstone clan owning the largest ranch in Montana is worth a fair amount of money. It's at the point where we get into the prequels that we begin to see just how complex the Dutton family truly is. As we get deeper immersed into the Dutton family and expect new seasons, we're breaking down each member of the family tree and the role they play in each step of the process. Only that this time, we'll do it chronologically. 1883, where it all started. Our first look into the Dutton family technically began with Yellowstone, but 1883 is where we meet the first branch of the family tree. We first got introduced to James and Margaret Dutton, who were played by Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, the husband and wife pair that first set off to travel west with their children, Elsa and John I, a Tennessee farmer. James fought for the Confederate Army in the Civil War before making his way out west with his family. Margaret, likewise, was an army nurse. The couple would soon welcome a second son into the world, but he was not shown in 1883. James also had a sister named Claire, who traveled with her brother and his family to find a better life for herself and her daughter after losing her husband, Henry, and their other children. Claire and her daughter, Mary Abel, would also have a heartbreaking journey that ultimately ended with both of them passing away before they reached the end of their travels. Mary Abel was killed outside Fort Worth, Texas, and Claire later took her own life. While we did not meet him until 1923, James also had a brother named Jacob Dutton, and his story becomes very important in the next chapter of the family saga. In fact, Jacob Dutton is the patriarch at the heart of the storyline, and has already proven incredibly smart and savvy. In a heartbreaking turn of events, Elsa passed away in the final episode of 1883, and in the series premiere of 1923, we learned that only one of the other children James and Margaret shared would live long enough to see their own children be born. Thanks to Yellowstone flashbacks, fans knew that James Dutton passed away sometime after the family settled at the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. We saw him return home with gunshot wounds, and fans believed that might have been the cause of his death, though none of the series ever confirmed it. 1923 also revealed that Margaret passed away, frozen in a snowdrift. All in all, the story being told in 1883 was heart-wrenching, and to learn that only the 2 youngest children survived feels really nostalgic. 1923. Interestingly, we only have 1 episode of 1923 as at the time of this video, and it's left fans at a point where we're still figuring out the ins and outs of the Dutton family ties in the prequel. So far, fans have been introduced to a few of the major players for the new series, Kara and Jacob Dutton, who lead the family this time around and were played by Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. While they've got children and a blossoming family, viewers learn that Margaret and James's sons have continued to live out the Dutton family legacy together with their parents. One of the sons, Spencer Dutton, is living in Africa and hunting big game animals as he attempts to flee his mind. Trapped in an endless cycle of memories and suffering from PTSD, Spencer's life isn't exactly easy. He tries to outrun his circumstance at every opportunity. Of course, we also see the negative side of that way of existence, as Spencer is nearly attacked twice in the first episode, with the second happening in the last moments of the episode. Viewers aren't sure what his fate will be just yet, but we're hoping we've not seen the last of him yet. We were also introduced to Jack Dutton, who works with his great-uncle Jacob on the Yellowstone Ranch. He and his soon-to-be bride, Elizabeth Strafford, are young and in love, which means emotions are high, and they're set to be wed soon. While they have not officially made it to the altar, it seems to be the next step, as long as Jack makes it home safe from a cattle job. We'll hopefully learn more about that in the episodes to come. While we have yet to meet Emma and John Dutton, they're also an integral part of the 1923 storyline, and we anticipate their arrival happening very soon. The bonds we see in this series will bridge the gap between the Duttons of 1883 and the family we follow in today's timeline. Anyone who has seen parts of the prequel may already begin to understand how it links up to Yellowstone, Want to know how that continues? Well, keep watching. Yellowstone. Yellowstone's family is the one most viewers are most familiar with, and it's no surprise, as it is the story we've been diving deeper into since 2018. John Dutton is the family patriarch and the eventual governor of Montana. He tries to keep hedge funds and powerful rivals from taking his generational land away from him and his children. He also had 3 children with his late wife, Evelyn, who died in a horseback riding accident. The couple brought Beth, Casey, and Lee into the world, and while their family loved one another, one wouldn't have called their home an overly loving one. Relationships were strained, especially between that of Beth and her mother. Of course, fans of the series know that there is another Dutton child, Jamie Dutton, whom Evelyn and John adopted after learning of his tragic circumstances. Jamie's biological father killed his mom and was promptly taken in by authorities. Jamie did have an interesting and unexpected, or not, storyline. He lived with the Dutton family as one of their own, until he learned of his adoption and biological father in the 3rd season. Jamie also learned that he had a son in the next season, and that information was only shared with him once it seemed as if he would be leaving his adopted family behind. His ex-partner, who was his old campaign manager, Christina, introduced the father and son pair as Jamie visited his biological father, Garrett Randall. Of course, if you're all caught up with Yellowstone, you know Jamie decided to cut a branch off of his family tree after season 4. Jamie took the life of his father, and while he blames Beth for that decision, Jamie is the one who pulled the trigger in every sense of the word. The only family Jamie has now is the Dutton, and he's still fighting them at every turn. Viewers also know that Lee Dutton was killed at the very beginning of Yellowstone after he was shot during a confrontation with the neighboring Broken Rock Reservation. He apparently died well before his time, and his untold story is a painful weight that John carries on his shoulders daily. John and Evelyn had another biological son, Casey, and he's probably the only one that's continuing the true legacy of the Dutton family as we know it. Casey married Monica, and they have 2 sons together, one who lived for only an hour after being born and was named after his grandfather, John. The other is the beloved Tate Dutton, the boy who grew up with more trauma than most adults will ever face in a lifetime. Tate is smart, witty, and full of charisma, and as the next generation, it'll be interesting to see which path he takes as he continues to grow. Casey seems to want to bring another child into the world, but they're both reeling from the loss of their son, and we're not sure what the future holds for continued growth in the Dutton family tree, but we'll all find out as the series continues. Of course, John and Evelyn shared a daughter too, Beth Dutton, as she is as brilliant as she is fierce and fiery. She's also dedicated to her father and the life he has always envisioned for his family. She cannot have biological children of her own, something Jamie decided for her without her knowledge, but she is married to Rip Wheeler, John's current Yellowstone ranch manager, and a one-time wayward boy that her father took under his wing, and they've taken in a boy who needs safety and people to care for him. Likewise, she doesn't like being called a mother, since it's something she'll never be, but Carter is important to Beth, and she also means a lot to him. One of the most unspoken truths in Yellowstone is that you don't have to be related by blood to be family. There's a lot the Dutton family is up against, but they are there for one another at the end of the day, and few things in the world are more important than that. This season has been full of high stakes and heartbreak, but it looks like we're not done with the story just yet. You can catch up with the first 4 seasons of Yellowstone streaming on Peacock now. And don't forget, season 5 returns after a brief hiatus this summer. So, what are your thoughts about the Dutton family and the 3 series? How do you think the storyline will end up for some of the other characters? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to get more developments from the Dutton family. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.